Hey guys, so today is another study day for me and I'm going to be going over one of the trade recap videos and also some mechanics, and essentially just kind of work a little bit on just going over some stuff that I've already known, but also just kind of be a little bit more intentional. Every time I go through it, I want to be a little bit more intentional, and I'm going to kind of just select certain periods for it and just study them and really focus on those areas. Then what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going into studying Aussie New Zealand, and I'm just going to be looking at continuation entries within a random piece of a run, and then essentially that's it for today. So hope you guys enjoyed the video and take care.
Hey guys, what's up? So today I'm going to be doing a video on data collection on continuation patterns. So essentially I'm just going to be finding a run, and within that run we're going to have multiple different continuations, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be analyzing these and then just evaluating entries, management and so forth. So just sharpening my tools essentially. I haven't forgotten the data collection that I did last week. I will get back to that. So what I tend to do is I used to portion it out so I don't overexhaust myself by doing too much of one task. So I'll just pick a pair at random, and today let's do Aussie New Zealand. And with Aussie New Zealand, what we're going to do is we're going to pick a data section, and why not pick this period over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to line them up, and I'm going to pick from this section to around about that section, and I'll bar replay that all the way back over there. So it's going to be slightly different because I'm not going to be logging the information. So you don't always necessarily have to data collect and save the information somewhere. You can also just study and analyze for the sake of studying and analyzing, right? It's just something to keep in mind that we don't necessarily need to always overdo it. It's possible that sometimes we make a task much harder than it is, and then we avoid the actual reason for doing the task. And in this case, the reasoning for doing this task is just to study continuations. So what I do want to see is that price has tapped into a area of value, and then we're looking for continuation. So essentially the nice thing is over here we can see that price is basically within this range. So we're going to box that range off and essentially just have a little look at this. Now I'm marking these on prior to analyzing on it because technically I don't need to do it as it goes on. The data has already been collected, so I'm going to be analyzing all this piece of information. I want to see how price responds to these highs and lows. I want to see where I get a clear indication of a turnaround. I want to see what data I can find amongst the midst of all of this, and yeah, that's basically it. So one of the things that I think is extremely important is not to overcomplicate your charts. Only put on what's relevant and what's required, and we'll come to it. So without ado, let's start. So we can see over here that price basically responded to a bit of a corrective little section there, and then we happen to move lower. I'm not going to bother with that. I'm going to actually just get into here. So starting with this, I'm going to pull this back just a little bit more, and we'll go to the daily. So as we can see from the daily, we tapped into this area, and this was the first continuation. Now really and truly I wouldn't have even entertained a trade here just because of where it was positioned. It's not my typical area where I have an edge. Using the line chart, you could have made something through it, but it would feel a little bit forced in terms of the size. But once we got the commitment, I think in these areas you could have been looking for continuation. So for me, the run really started around about here, opposed to up here. So I'll go into the 4, zoom back a bit. So that's the thing. Sometimes something like this can cause a bit of a FOMO for a lot of people, where they might just force something on like this and be like, oh no, we tapped into it and we sold. Okay, fine. You know, if I wanted to, I could say like, look, there's a trade here, there's a trade here, there's a trade here. You know, there is trades everywhere, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'm always going to take it. Now, when I say I'm going to be studying continuations, I'm going to study the ones that I would have taken, which meet my plan. So sometimes there is trades that meet your plan, but because due to the subjectivity of everything around it, doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to be taking it. So over here, we did have a continuation in there, which I think is actually a little bit interesting. That there was that. I think personally that is still a part of all of this, and I would avoid that regardless. Is there room to manage to the low though? That's the real question, and I think even if I was to get in with 10 pips, I think I would have just about walked away with something. So or perhaps maybe I could have taken something in there. Let's have a little look. So to the low, if I was even to go 25, it was about 3. So if I was to get in with 15, there is a 5 to 1 there. So there could essentially be a trade in there. Looking at this, what else can we see? So that's going to be the 1 hour. There was potentially a trade here, and this might be something to evaluate there. Definitely can't really make that out to be the trade. Yeah, definitely not that. There's one nice one here that looks interesting, and then as we move deeper, we've got this bit of accumulation here, and then we pull back, go lower, and all of this section over here, and then we've pulled back. So we're going to analyze this little bit of price here, get into the 1, and let's get back a bit. Here we go. So actually, you know what, I can just replay it back here. We'll just get closer. So let's have a little look. In terms of a 1 hour entry, there wasn't really anything here, because I would have looked for it to tap into that, and we just about missed it. We came for that wick there and moved likewise again. So this could have been more of a retest as well. I mean, you would have seen it as that. Even so, it could have been taken out on that. It's too steep. So there is a trade in here, just bear in mind. It's just the angle of it isn't your most favorable, but you can see how clean it was in the end when it did play out. You can see the trade there. Maybe a refined entry on that for sure. Definitely gonna have to look at this one a bit closer. I don't necessarily think there is a clean enough trade in here for me to want to say I would entertain something there. I would have looked for that, so I'll look at it and see if there's a trade in there. Over here, personally, I would say that's probably more so a missed opportunity, in the sense that there was no trade that I could have really deciphered. I would probably have to go extra protection if I was going to take that. So once again, we can have a look at that. I think if you did take it, there was a trade here, there was a trade right there, and 40 pips would have been suffice. You would run about 3%, so I'd go 1. Yeah, I'd be taken out for 1%. But then again, because it's coming up so close to the retest, you might even hold a break even at that point, and you could just survive it depending on. Yeah, no, you would survive that if you did hold a break even, but you ran 3%, so it's very, very debatable. At 3%, you'd probably want to lock in around about 1%. So I would either say you're holding 1% or you're not. I think because of how that's pushed, you would even anticipate this to kind of develop. So I'd walk away with that percent, be taken out, and then have to reevaluate for a next entry, which could even have been there. And over here, couldn't see an entry on the hourly, couldn't see an entry just so much on the hourly there. there was reduced risk entries, but they're not my preferred just due to the size of it. I mean, that alone for that 1 hour entry, yeah, you would have been protected for roughly around about 40 pips just to be safe. So yeah, it's a tricky one. From a point perspective here, could you necessarily say there was a trade here? Maybe, actually, maybe if you had the balls, you could take this trade. Yeah, I think that feels a little bit too forced, but it makes sense. And then you take the trade from there with the anticipation that it could even, yeah, this would be a difficult trade for me to decipher personally, because of that area there. I wouldn't be too sure if we're going to come back up, fill that, or even come back up there. You know, there's just a bit too much subjectivity. I would have wanted to wait possibly an AFT entry just there, but it's because it's a part of all of this. I think you'd want to avoid that area just because it can develop into so much more. That could have been the trade. So this section here might be worth analyzing on the 15, and then we got this trade here. Over here there was definitely a 1 hour entry right there, and you could have taken that roughly around about 30 pips and got away with that. What I do like about this actually, and I've noticed, is when you do break, you kind of get that suppression of structure, and then it kind of goes. Yeah, this ran for about 5. You'd probably lock in aggressively at 4. Over here, you'd be out of the market for 4% on that. Maybe there was a refined entry on there. We'll have a closer look. And then 1, 2, 3. Possible we could have taken an entry on this and taken a break even, which would have been right there, because essentially what you'd be looking at is you'd be taking that point, that point, that point, and then you'd size it up like this, and then you'd see that as your 1, 2, 3 for another continuation to go lower. This is much higher risk, and in the end you would have run around about 8, so you could have been taken out as well for a loss on that alone as well. It's a tricky trade because it could develop and get really, but could do this, which it kind of did in the end anyway, and then scooped up and sold off. And then on the way down there wasn't really anything. Yeah, there wasn't. Oh, there was a trade here. Interested in that. There was a trade right here, but the question I have now is, could we have taken something here on the lower time frames? Maybe. And then over here, I don't know. I don't like any of that price. So I'll be honest with you, I couldn't actually. Let's have a little look. So if I take that as the first point and we go straight across, yeah, that's decent in terms of sort of how it's kind of developed. It's not so bad. And then the low would have been just about here, so we'd probably want to take this low, see it all the way across, and that would have been it. So I do quite like that. If I did take it internally, which is not even a problem as well, you know, that would make a little bit more sense to me for the structure. But overall, I do like this as the structure. And just to clean it up, I will. Yeah, I'll put it over there. Okay, cool. And entry wise, on this particular trade, I don't think I can see anything that really jumps out to me personally. Yeah, I think I will probably say zooming in may not be the best. It might be getting a bit too zoom. Over here, what would you have? You'd have roughly around about 55 pips. What was the 4 hour look like on that? Yeah, you could take the 4 hour entry there. It's risky. You wouldn't get much different on your stop placement. Yeah, I would go extra. I'd probably go 46, 47 47, and then into the low, yeah, you ran about 4.2%. I'll be out for 3 if that was taken, but it's a very interesting one when you think about it because of how it's been moving, and you know, it's kind of just exhausting at that point. It's broken the low, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it doesn't look too bad. It looks very deliberate. It looks interesting. The structure is not the greatest structure because of how it's just been correctively descending into that low and then pushed up with impulsive price action. But overall, I think this is one of those ones that did commit, so you could be convinced that a structure like this is good. It's not always the case. Let's go to the 15 is unavailable. Right. Well, even so, I think that alone was pretty interesting. In terms of entries, yeah, from a 1 hour perspective, there wasn't anything clear as day in there. If there was an entry in there, you could have gone 43, and this one could have easily been played. You're running about 5% there. Pulls back, yeah, about 4%, you'd be out as well. So you do 4 plus 1, it's about 5%. Over here equally, we'd look for that entry in there. I think there was most probably an entry in there. You'd be up 2%, probably be holding a break even at that point. You'd run around about 4.5, so yeah, 3% locked in, and you'd walk away with a 3% there. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Over here, can't tell, so I'm not gonna take the trade there, but there could have been like a smaller trade in there. And then over here, yeah, another 4, so I think we had 8, 12, break even, and then that period there, which once again we can't see, but overall it's pretty decent. There's 12% on the table there, which is quite interesting, and yeah, pretty good for a trade between April the 27th all the way down to the 31st of May. So that would be a pretty profitable period because we'd be trading pretty much from the beginning of April towards beginning of May to the end of May, and you would have made around about 12% from just taking a sequence within this trade. So it just shows as well that, you know, if you wait in anticipation for, you know, just particular pairs to kind of make its run, you know, we wouldn't have known that this was going to become a run like that, because once again, if we go to the daily and you look at it from a perspective like such, really and truly, we don't know that that was going to sell off from there. It didn't actually tap into anywhere majorly significant. It just happened to be the one. It near missed this ever so slightly as well. So this trade was only interesting because we broke that low. As soon as we broke that low there, we then started to open the floodgates, and then we got trade after trade. And now if we go back and we look at the difference, and this is where a level of patience comes in. You've got the first trade on the 27th, you've got another one 2 days later, and this one coincidentally is around about spreads as well. So you may not have taken this one, because it's not likely you always open up a trade bang on spread hour. I think if we get a bit closer with that, yeah, the entry was literally bang on spreads. So yeah, it's not likely. Then we have the next one, which was roughly around about a 9 a.m. trade. So it was kind of more of a London session situation over there. Interesting. And then we've got another one over here, which would have been around about the 5, 6. So this is more, and we've always known it with Aussie New Zealand, it tends to be more of an Asian session pair a lot of the time when it does shape up. You know, we can even see over here with this particular trade. This particular trade went around about spread hour as well. Over here, just about London session, coming into London session. Over here, we're looking at coming into London session again, and there was commitment as well, but it seems like London session is the one. Really and truly, you know, London session is spread hour. So just coming into high spreads, Asian session, and then going into London session around about 9 o'clock. They seem to be like the good times. Even over here where we can see commitment, you can see the big drop off happened once again, spread hour. To be fair, I learned something new today. I learned that if there is a pair to trade during spreads, it's definitely Aussie New Zealand, but depending on your broker, you'd want to see what type of spreads hours. You can see here that the real commitment started around about 5, 6 a.m. as well, and then it just continued through and then pulled back eventually. Price completed around about Asian session, but once again, this would be a type of trade that you may stay up for, and it's something to actually just keep in mind, like when not to stay up for a trade. Well, over here where you've got a clear, deliberate, larger structure, and you know it's from seeing this, what I've done here, and you've seen what time your entries are going, you can see that, okay, we have a clear structure, it's a larger structure, it is in an area of value because it meets with the low as well, right? It's not on top of it up here, it's through it. And then we can see that prices actually rapidly got there during the majority of the day. And then coming into Wednesday evening, we've started to trickle, squeeze towards the end. And then as we've got there, then it's getting late and you then be switching off. Or you could say, well, I know that it's highly probable that during spreads, 10 o'clock UK or early London session, Aussie New Zealand can go, right? This is its prime time. So is it beneficial for me to stay up tonight? Or is it beneficial for me to have a siesta, afternoon nap, and kind of pick up with that? And then that's where you'd really evaluate it. And I think knowing that now, it would play a massive bonus for future trades. Now, yeah, there's going to be times where you stay up at night and the trade doesn't go. Trade's not there. I mean, look at this bit. They had a continuation over here, and this one dropped off. Okay, that one dropped off at 10 o'clock as well. But once again, you know, these things happen. I mean, let's see this one over here. This one actually seemed to drop off. Okay, London session, 9 a.m. It dropped off. And then over here, yeah, we're looking at roughly around, okay, spreads again. Yeah, so 9 a.m., 10 p.m., guys, Aussie, New Zealand, that's where your money's at. But yeah, cool. So that was just a quick little breakdown today. What I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be going over some other content. So I'm going to be going over some mechanical videos on just trade setups, entry criteria, and probably throw in a trade recap video just to kind of spice up my knowledge. I'll do journaling around that as well, so I will make sure that when I'm watching these videos I'm taking notes and working on improving the way that I'm looking at trades and managing trades and being very intentional with what I'm observing, and then basically, yeah, taking it a step forward. So guys, it was a bit of a shorter video today. It doesn't necessarily need to always be an hour long. It can either be 20 minutes sometimes. Even if you do as little as 10 minutes a day, you're still progressing. Into incremental growth every day is better than no growth, right? So take that on board, right? And I say this to quite a lot of people, is if you can do a little bit every day, despite whatever happens in your day, if it's just before you go to bed, when you wake up, if you can squeeze in just a little bit, it doesn't have to be journaled, it doesn't have to be done, it just gets done for you and for your progress. You're going to be way better off, trust me. You're going to improve so much more. Something like I've got here on the charts where you've got a 1, 2, 3, that's not so difficult to study, right? You can just go off and look for patterns and just start really getting familiar with it, and then eventually you can start logging them and have a process in place. And then with that process, what you can then do there is you can document everything, learn from it, and then drill it down, get better and better and better, and find small incremental steps for you to improve. And that's how I improved, right? I took it very slow, but this is when I started to improve, because the first time I got around to trading, I kind of just wanted to jump on everything. As soon as I found out something, I was like, okay, I'm going to try trade that on the live markets. And you know, it doesn't really always work. Look what I've done today, right? I've gone back, I've studied, I've looked at the data, I've observed something, and now because I've figured out that one little piece of the puzzle in the market, which I think I actually already knew of, but once again, I've reignited that fire in me. When I go back and I see Aussie New Zealand shaping up, I know when I'm going to be sharp, I know what I'm going to be looking for, I know when the momentum's really kicking in. So if I'm going to be making money on this pair, I know when I need to be really sharp. So just wanted to point that out. I just wanted to kind of enlighten you guys and show you that there's a lot of potential in the market. You can look at the market in so many different perspectives, but at the end of the day, it's not about simply just pulling the trigger whenever something shapes up. It's about knowing what to wait for and knowing what works with you. So today I was looking for continuations and looking at the entries and just sharpening up my management around it. I hope you found some value in this video. If you did, definitely hit the like and subscribe. And if you know a friend or someone who would equally find value in this, you know, it's always good to just share things like this, because who knows, you know, a simple video like this could save someone a year, 2 years, 3 years of trauma of losing money in the markets. And you know, one of the main reasons why I made this channel and these videos is to help people that were just like me, who were taking losses, had a lot of heartache and stuff. And if I could in any way relieve you guys of losing money, or you know, making the same mistakes that I did, then you know, by all means take as much value as you can, because at the end of the day, you know, no one wants to lose money. Everybody wants to have enough money to feed their families and have a good time and go out with their friends and, you know, do the nice things without having to worry about paying the bills, the rise in price of strawberries and whatnot. So you know, at the end of the day, I hope you enjoyed this. Hope you took good value in it. And if you haven't, check out my day in the life video. Just posted it. I did take a bit of time to work on it. It is the first one. I kind of made it mobile friendly, so it's in landscape. Yeah, so guys, thanks again, and I'll catch you in the next one.